Good morning again. I trust that you're all well, and I just wanted to start with a quick recap of the last video. So we've been talking about finding the median using a stem and leaf diagram. Little key at the bottom. A number of you showed me your work, had forgotten the little key. It's not a huge issue, but it's worth doing. So with a set of data like this, if I want to find the median, my first question is, where's the median? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 values. 12 plus 1 divided by 2, that's 6.5, isn't it? So that tells me I'm looking between the 6th and the 7th value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's between not 1 and 1, but 61 and 61. And well, they're both the same. So halfway between 61 and 61, it's just 61. So I don't know what this data is, but the median of this data is 61. And do you remember the lesson before that? We talked about finding the mean of a frequency distribution and the mode as well. We can easily see the mode. The mode is the most popular. So 12 games, there were 2 goals scored. So 2 is the mode. But the mean, if you remember, you had to do a little bit of a calculation. These are number of goals scored in games of football. There were 8 games where no goals were scored. So rather than doing 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, we did the quick multiplication trick. I'm going to carry on and do that. Let's speed the video up. Okay, and do you remember then we worked out 2 totals? We said, right, okay, firstly, how many, in this case it's football matches, how many football matches have we got in our survey? And we get that by adding up the frequency. So that's 8 plus 10 plus 12 plus 3 plus 5 plus 2. So that's 40 games. And then how many goals were scored in total? What do you get if you add up all the values? So that's this column added up. So that's 0 plus 10 plus 24 plus 9 plus 20 plus 10. And that's 64. And so to work out the mean, we always add up all the values. Well, that's what we've got there, 64. And then we divide by how many bits of data we had, which was 40. And 64 divided by 40 gives me 1.6. I know you can't score 1.6 goals in a game, but that's often the problem with the mean, isn't it? So that's a quick recap of the last 2 lessons. Median from a stem and leaf diagram, mean from a frequency distribution. But what if I wanted to find the median of that same set of data? So I can work out the mode, most popular number of goals scored, that's 2. I can work out the mean using that technique I've just reminded you of, but what about the median? The median is the middle value, and we've worked out the median from a stem and leaf diagram. We can also do it from a frequency distribution, and that's what today's lesson is about. So just like we do with the stem and leaf diagram, let's firstly ask ourselves, how many values have we got? And we get that by adding up our frequencies. So if you remember, this is the number of goals scored in 40 games of football. 8 games had no goals, 10 games had 1 goal, etc., etc. So with 40 values, where's the median? So that's 41 divided by 2, which is 20.5. So I know what that actually means is I'm looking between the 20th and the 21st game if I line the games up in order. So how do I find the 20th and the 21st game from my frequency distribution? Well, what you've got to imagine is this. Imagine every game lined up in order of the number of goals. So at the beginning of I don't know how you can get a game to line up. Perhaps you've got the football from each of those games. I don't know. So at the start of your list, you'd have the 8 footballs from the games where no goals were scored. You'd then have the 10 games where 1 goal was scored. How many games is that altogether then? 8 and 10. So that's 18. So by the time I get to the end of the games with 1 goal scored, I've got through 18 games. Have I got to the 20th and the 21st game? I haven't. So I've got the 8 games with no goals scored first in my line, then the 10 games with 1 goal scored, and now I've got the 12 games where we had 2 goals scored. So that's how many games altogether? 8 plus 10 plus 12. That's 30 games. So I've got 30 of my games in order so far. If I then have the 3 games where 3 goals were scored, that takes me up to 33 games. If I then have the 5 games where 4 goals were scored, that takes me to 38 games. And then finally, the 2 games where 5 goals were scored, that's all 40 games. So you've got to imagine these games lined up from the 8 games where no goals were scored all the way up to the 2 games where 5 goals were scored. Now, the question is, where are the 20th and the 21st games? Or rather, how many goals were scored in the 20th and the 21st games? And I hope you can see that they must have been games where 2 goals were scored. The first 18 games had either no goals or 1 goal, but then the next 12 had 2 goals. So that would have been the 19th, the 20th, the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th. All would have had 2 goals scored. So the 20th and the 21st game both would have had 2 goals scored. So halfway between 2 and 2, the median is just 2. Now, I think this is really hard to get your head round. This isn't a complicated sum, is it? We're not doing hard sums, but it's a really complicated concept to get your head round. I think it's worth doing another example before I give you some to try for yourself. So here's a second example. This is a survey of how many pets people had. So they asked a number of people how many pets they owned. And you'll notice they've done what I don't like. They've put the data in rows, so I've straight away written it out again in columns. So I've got 5 people in my survey who didn't have a pet, and then 8 people who had 1 pet, 7 people who had 2 pets, 5 people who had 3 pets, 2 people with 4 pets. So firstly, and remember what we're doing, we're finding the median. I need to ask how many people in my survey. So I need to add up 5 plus 8 plus 7 plus 2 plus 5 plus 2, which is 27 people. I then say, okay, where's the median? 27 plus 1 divided by 2. I'm looking for my 14th value. So I need to say, right, you 27 people, can you line yourselves up in order based on how many pets you've got? So to start with, I want the 5 people with no pets. I want you to line up over there. And after those people, I'd like the 8 people who've all got 1 pet. So by the time those 2 groups of people have lined up, I've got 13 people in order, haven't I? I don't really mind how these people line up and how these people line up, but I want these people first, followed by those people. So 13 people have lined up. I say, okay, people with 2 pets, come and join the line, please. So that's 5 plus 8 plus 7. That's 20 people. You know what's coming next? You 5 people with 3 pets. You come and join the line. So by that time we've counted 25 people, and then at the end the 2 people with 4 pets, 27 people in total. So my question is, how many pets does the 14th person in the list have? So the first 5 people had no pets, the next 8 people had 1 pet, so that was 13 people. We hadn't got to the 14th person. The 14th person would be the first person with 2 pets. So the median is 2, because the 14th person would be one of these people with 2 pets. I say again, I think that's quite hard to get your head around. So if you're finding it hard, you're doing it right. So I've got some practice for you. So firstly, on the attached sheet, you've got 3 frequency distributions. And I just want you to repeat the process that I've just been through with those 2 examples. I only want you to find the median in each case. So the median of this set of data, in this one, it's nice, they've even added it up for you, so you haven't got to do the total. Remember, start by asking, where's the median? And then try and decide what the median would be. So you've got 3 of those to try, and I'm going to attach answers to those 3 so you can check those. I've then added just a set of data, so that's what you'll get on the sheet. So here we've got a survey of the number of trains that were late each day at a particular station. So first day they recorded, there were no trains late. Second day there was 1 train. Third day there were 2 trains, etc. I want you to tally this data up into a frequency distribution and then roll several of the techniques we've used together and find the mean, the median and the mode. Remember, the mode is the easy one. You can see that just by looking. The mean is the one where you do the multiplying trick, and the median is what we've been talking about today. So the first thing you'll have to do is to tally your data up. So I noted that the smallest value was 0 and the biggest was 5. And when I tally, I like to go through the values one at a time so I know I'm not going to miss any. So the first day was 0, then the next day was 1, then the next day was 2, then the next day was 4, then it was 1 again, then it was 0, then it was 2, then it was 1, then it was 1, then it was 0, etc. Okay? And then what I like to do is I take my tally chart and total it up. So I get my proper frequency distribution where this is just the totals of my tallies. And then that's what I use to find the mean, the median, the mode. You might want to do 2 of those because you might want to do 1 for the mean and then 1 for the median, or you might be able to combine it all onto one chart. But whereas I'm going to put the answers to the first 3 questions on, I'm going to open submissions and ask you to submit your answer to just this question. And I'm going to ask Mr. Gifford and Mr. Borthwick just to have a look at that and check it for me. Like I say, I think this median thing from a frequency distribution is probably the hardest thing we've done in this topic so far. Not because it's a complicated sum, but I think it's just quite hard getting your head around. So, like I say, if you're finding it hard, well done. That means you're doing it right. You'll hear from me again on Friday. Take care.